Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to the second episode in the Project CARS discussion series, where I'm going to be trying to answer the question of whether this game is worth buying. Is it worth you going out there and spending your hard-earned money on this game? Are you going to enjoy it? Now, this isn't something that I can tell you yes or no. I can't give you a yes or no answer. This isn't an easy question to answer because it's different for every single person. What I'm going to do throughout the course of this video is try to explain the positives and the negatives about this game, whether you might like it, whether it's something for you, or whether it's something that you'd prefer not to have. I'm going to try and cover everything so that you can make an informed decision by the time we get to the end of the video for yourself. So the first thing that we need to do really is figure out where Project CARS is in the arena of racing games. Where does it fit? So generally racing games always have an arcade style to them or a simulator style to them. You know, that is the tag that's put on racing games. Oh, it's an arcade racer, it's a simulator style racer. That is the general gist of the way racing games go. But that isn't a discrete value. You know, there are many arcade racing games that aren't quite as arcadey as some others. They incorporate some simulator style aspects. There's plenty of simulator racing games that incorporate some arcadey style aspects as well. So it's about working out what is on that scale and what that scale sort of looks like before we can sort of define where Project CARS would be. So on the very end of the arcade side of that scale, you would have games like Burnout, the sort of racing games that you get on a mobile phone as well. Things where you can sort of drift around a corner quicker than you can even go around the track in a straight line. You know, things that are completely unrealistic as a racing game, but they're just a bit of fun. Now, just a bit on from that, you would have things like Need for Speed or Grand Theft Auto, where the physics of the game don't necessarily represent real world physics, but the idea of a racing line, the idea of racecraft, and being able to incorporate that sort of thing into your racing still exists. So for example, you know, in Grand Theft Auto, you need to be on the racing line, you need to carry the speed through the corners to be able to get the best lap times, which is exactly the same as what you would see in a simulator racing game. Now, the physics of the cars and the game world physics don't represent real life physics like some of the simulator racing games, but there is still that real life aspect to it, and that would be, those are still arcade racing games, but they are more realistic than things like Burnout, for example. That's why this is a bit of a scale. Now, on the simulator side of things, at the very end of the scale, you've got the really hardcore PC racers. Things like iRacing, Assetto Corsa, R Factor. You know, there's countless types now, and they've all got their own little nuances and will be in their own individual places on this scale, and in general that's open to opinion as well. But in general, the PC racing games are the highest level of simulator games that you can get. A little bit further down from that, you would have things like Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport. They're still in the simulator side of things, but they aren't quite as simulatorified, if you like, as the really hardcore PC stuff. Obviously, they represent real world physics as best as they can, but they don't do quite as good of a job as the top simulators on PC. But they are still better than the arcade style games. You know, as I said, this is a sliding scale, and games will just feature in many different aspects of this. So where does Project CARS fit into that? Where does it fit? It's pretty much on the very end of the simulator scale. It's a very difficult game, and that's because it's trying its best to simulate real world physics as much as possible. Just like those top PC simulators like iRacing, like R Factor, Project CARS is trying to be what they are as well. Now, this is where the controversial part of the video is going to be, because, you know, don't just go straight to the comments and hate on me for this. Well, you can if you want, but Project CARS is a better racing game than Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport. Now I'm going to be explaining that throughout the course of this video, and the reason that I'm doing that is to, again, give you guys an idea of the sort of thing that you're going to be buying. But if you want a more serious, proper racing game, more serious than Gran Turismo, more serious than Forza Motorsport, then Project Cars is right for you. It is closer to those top-end PC racing simulators than it is Gran Turismo or Forza Motorsport. Now, a bit of background, I have played them all. You know, I've played Forza Motorsport 2, Forza Motorsport 3, Forza Motorsport 4, Forza Motorsport 5. I've played Gran Turismo 3, Gran Turismo 4, Gran Turismo 5, Gran Turismo 6. I've 100% completed Gran Turismo 3, 4 and 5 with the Platinum Trophy for Gran Turismo 5. I've had 1000 gamer score and all the achievements on Forza Motorsport 2, Forza Motorsport 3, but by the time it got to Forza Motorsport 4 and Gran Turismo 6, I was starting to get bored with those games. You know, they're pretty much the same thing iterated. You know, they had, a few different innovations, but nothing really major, nothing special to them. It was basically just the same game again and again with a few slight differences. And once you've gone through, obviously anybody new to the franchise, someone who hadn't played all of the other Gran Turismo games would play Gran Turismo 6 and it would be a fantastic game. You know, especially younger people who haven't played the older games. But as soon as you've played Gran Turismo 3, 4, 5, it comes to Gran Turismo 6 and it's just all the same again. And there's just no real innovation there, especially for a racing fan such as myself. Now, those games have their own audience and they're trying to be as mainstream as possible. They're trying to appeal to the maximum amount of people as they possibly can, because they are AAA games. You know, they want to be selling as many games for their consoles. They are console specific as well. That makes them even more important for console sales. They're trying to appeal to as many people as possible. So yes, they are simulator games. Yes, they represent real world physics to a certain extent, but they aren't going to give you that pure racing experience as much as, for example, the high-end PC racing games such as iRacing. It's a completely different world. Now, this isn't something that you're going to really necessarily notice or even agree with until you've played those games. It's similar to when you get a new pair of glasses. You know, you may never have needed glasses throughout the whole of your life. You go to the opticians and they put the different lenses in after they've done an eye test, and you can suddenly see incredible amounts. You know, you've got used to the fact that you can't see. You get used to the vision that you have and you live with day to day. It's only when you are shown, wait, this is something that you could have, that you realize the difference that it makes. And that's the same sort of thing with this. You know, for a long time I was just all about the consoles. I didn't play PC racing games. I didn't really have the time or the PC to do it. I just always played Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport, and to me they were the pinnacle of what was possible. But then I got Project Cars, and it's just a completely different experience entirely. That it's worlds apart. You can feel the cars so much better. You feel what they're doing on the road. You feel like you're pushing the cars to the limits. It's hard to put into words, but basically the only way that I can say it is it's much more realistic, but equally much more difficult as well. If you enjoyed Gran Turismo, if you enjoyed Forza Motorsport, but you always felt something was a little bit lacking, you always felt that you wanted a little bit extra, then Project Cars is right for you. Having said that, both those games, you know, Gran Turismo, Forza Motorsport, they have their own individual aspects that set them apart. Gran Turismo has the biggest car list of any game, any racing game. You can race whatever car you want, 10 different varieties of Mazda MX-5. You go for it, you know, just do it. The Forza Motorsport has a lot of other different features as well, especially things like the creator, the livery creator. They've all got their individual aspects to them, but from a pure racing perspective, and that's all I'm thinking about here, is a pure racing perspective, Project Cars is in a completely different league. If you want all of the cars, if you're not bothered about that pure racing perspective and that pure racing experience, then you want to stick to Gran Turismo, you want to stick to Forza Motorsport. If you prefer to have lots of cars, you prefer to have a different livery instead, you prefer not to take your racing quite as seriously, then stick to those Gran Turismo, Forza Motorsport, or even consider, the Need for Speeds. Stick with Grand Theft Auto, the more arcadey races. That's absolutely fine, you can do that. But if you're looking for a proper racing experience, then Project Cars is the one that you need. Now, it's funny because throughout the whole course of the last, say, 10 or so years of playing these racing games, Forza Motorsport and Gran Turismo, I've always felt that there was something lacking with them. I've always felt that I could get something more out of what they're giving me. And if you could basically take my thoughts throughout the course of those years and collect them into a list of things that I wanted to see from Gran Turismo, from Forza Motorsport, then they would be, it's as if Project Cars has taken that list and just included it in the game. You can definitely tell that it's been made with races in mind. The fact that you've got warm-ups, practice sessions, qualifying before a race, all that kind of stuff. You have a proper race weekend. The career mode is actually like the career mode is basically like TOCA Race Driver 3. That's the best idea that I can, the best comparison that I can come up with. Obviously that was a PS2 game, but since then we haven't really had a game like that where you become a racing driver. This isn't for car enthusiasts. This game isn't for people who like cars. It's for racing enthusiasts, people who like motorsport, people who watch Formula 1, who watch the Le Mans 24 Hours and the World Endurance Championship, people who watch touring cars, people who watch the DTM, all forms of motorsport. If you watch it, if you're interested in it, and you do racing yourself, or you're really interested in the whole motorsport arena, then this game is suited to you perfectly. As I said, this isn't for car enthusiasts. It may be something that you'd choose to get into, but it's trying to set itself apart as a game for racers and motorsport enthusiasts, which is not something that you get from Gran Turismo, Forza Motorsport, or indeed any other console game in it at all, really. It's basically giving you the hardcore simulator PC experience on a console. Now I will come on to that in a little bit about PC as well, but yeah, that's where Project Cars sits in the whole arena of racing games. And yeah, as I was saying, just little things that I always wanted, something to do, for example, with replays on Gran Turismo or Forza Motorsport. If you recorded a race, you set the replay going and you used the camera shots that the game gave you, you would get stupid cameras. It was more about the artistic merit of those camera angles than realism. So for example, your car would be going along a straight and you'd have a camera shot where it was spinning around the car all the time. In real life there was no way that you'd be able to get that. When you watch a Formula 1 race, all the cameras are placed on the outside of the corners or outside of the track in a static location, because that's the only way that they can do it, and then they follow the action as they go through that part of the track. Something as simple as that I always had a problem with Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport, because it just wasn't realistic, the camera angles that they were giving you. Project Cars, straight away, bam, the replays have those camera angles and only those camera angles. It's hard to describe to someone who isn't a motorsport fan, to someone who hasn't wanted all of this kind of stuff for years and years and years. Now, those people on PC have had this kind of thing for years and years and years. With iRacing, with R-Factor, with Assetto Corsa, all of those kinds of games, there's plenty of them now. The PC racing experience, honestly, I don't think needs Project Cars. And if I were you, if I was on PC and I really wanted to get into some hardcore racing, I think there are better options. There are more established options than Project Cars. Obviously, if you want to get into the Project Cars community and that's the game that you want to get behind, fair enough. But I would certainly be looking at some of those more established PC racing simulators, such as iRacing, that already have that established community and that the established ability to give you that proper racing experience. I would be looking at those as alternatives as well. Don't just go straight for Project Cars because it's new. Have a look at those other things as well. But from a console perspective, you can't get a better racing experience than this. This is basically iRacing for the console. It's leagues ahead of Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport in the racing aspect alone. Just the racing aspect, nothing else. Not about the cars, not about anything else. Just the racing aspect. If that's all you're interested in, if you want the purest and the best racing experience on a console, then Project Cars is the one for you. You might not necessarily want that. You might want to stick with Gran Turismo where you've got hundreds of cars. You might want to stick with Forza Motorsport where you've got different liveries and the creator in there and all the other aspects to those games. But on a console, Project Cars is going to give you the best racing experience that you can get at the moment, and I would highly recommend it for any fan of motorsport. If you aren't a regular watcher of motorsport, you don't regularly watch all of these different kinds of motorsport, it's not something that you're generally interested in, but you are starting to get interested in it, then definitely go for it as well. But if you aren't a motorsport fan in general, you don't watch Formula 1, you just like racing every now and again, then it might not necessarily be the game for you. I would hold off in that case, wait a little bit. So it is difficult to get my thoughts down on this because there's so much to it, tiny little things that you see every now and again in Project Cars that you think, yes, why didn't Gran Turismo have that 10 years ago? Because that's what I thought back then. Or why didn't Forza Motorsport have this option available? Little things that are geared towards racing people who want to be a racing driver. The career mode, it puts you in that racing driver aspect. It gives you the idea that you are a racing driver progressing up through karting into different forms of motorsport and then ending up in Formula 1 or the World Endurance Championship. It gives you that feeling of motorsport, and only really a proper motorsport fan, someone who's really involved in motorsport in general, will appreciate that. So if that's not something that you're going to appreciate, Project Cars might be a disappointment for you because it doesn't have the customization of some of the other games. But if this is something that you are interested in, or you want to become interested in it, Project Cars is the one to go for. Now, a word of warning: Project Cars is a very hard game. If you don't imagine that because you were good at Gran Turismo with the assists on, that you're going to be able to drive in Project Cars. The assists do help, and certainly it's manageable with it. I get people are asking questions if it's manageable with a controller. It definitely is. Just leave some assists on, and you can certainly drive. But it's another level of difficulty on top of Gran Turismo or Forza Motorsport. As I said, it's closer to those PC racing simulators that people take really seriously. If you don't want to take your racing that seriously, then by all means don't buy Project Cars. So as I said, it's difficult to put it into words because from a racing fan like myself, who I watch all forms of motorsport, it's the pinnacle of that sort of game genre on consoles. It's clearly been designed with someone like myself in mind. It's hard for me to tell anybody else who maybe isn't quite as interested in that sort of thing whether it's right for them. But in terms of the racing alone, that's all I'm thinking about here. It is the absolute best racing experience that you can get on a console. As I said, for PC, there are other alternatives out there, but if you're on a console, PS4 or Xbox One, this is the best racing experience that you can get. And it's well worth buying if that's the case. There are two things that I quickly want to go over just before we finish up here. The first one is that, yes, I know I've been saying the game is difficult, but it is still accessible as well. You can go into this game, turn on all the assists with a controller, and you'll be able to at least play it. What I mean by it being difficult is that it's going to require some effort and some willingness on your part to learn the game, learn proper racing aspects, go on different websites, go on different videos, work at getting quicker with the cars yourself, things like that. It's going to require a bit of effort to get good at the game, and there is definitely a difficulty curve with that, but it is accessible at the very basic level. If you're just interested in it, you want to be getting into racing, but you're not quite good yet, that's still fine. You know, the game will still cater to that, but it's going to reward people who actually want to put in the effort to get good at it more so than others. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is quickly about the cars. You know, the main issue that people have been saying is that there aren't very many cars in the game. Honestly, it doesn't matter. This isn't a game about the cars. This is a game about the racing experience. You can race in a multitude of different varieties of racing disciplines: open wheel, touring cars, ovals, you know, the Le Mans prototypes, classic cars, regular supercars that you'd get in any normal racing game. There's so many, even karts as well. You know, there's so many different varieties of motorsport disciplines in there. Yes, for example, you can race the GT class. There may only be 5 or 6 different variations of cars in that class, but that's just one class of many. So the open wheel cars, there is Formula A, Formula B, Formula C, Formula Rookie, Formula Gulf as well. Then you've got the old classic Lotus Formula 1 cars as well. Yes, there aren't that many cars as a total number, but I think people get put far too much importance on that overall number. It doesn't matter. It's about the racing experience and the racing variety that you get. You can race any form of motorsport that you want, pretty much, with the exception of maybe rallying. You can race any different kind of iconic motorsport vehicle, you know, that's been there in the past. Yes, there aren't 10 different types of Mazda MX-5, but who really cares? So that's what I'm trying to get across. You know, it doesn't matter that there aren't that many cars as a total number. There are more than enough to keep you entertained, and more than enough different kinds and different disciplines of motorsport to keep you going for a long time. So yeah, this has been a bit of a rambling video. You know, we're up to nearly 20 minutes long now. I hope this has helped you try and get that idea nailed down of whether you want to buy it or not. Again, it might not have helped at all. It might have made it even worse. But yeah, hopefully it will give you a general idea of the way that this game has gone, where it fits into the whole world, and hopefully you'll be able to make your decision on whether to buy it or not based on this. Leave all your comments and all your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you've bought the game, what do you think of it? If you were on the fence about it, has this video turned you one way or another? Let me know down below. I would really want to know. And if you've got any questions, let me know as well. I'll try to answer them in the comments, obviously. But if I can't, I'll try to cover them in a video as well in the future. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. Leave a like and subscribe and all that good stuff if you're new to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.